Hi and good morning, everyone from New York. Welcome to the webinar for travel grants for displaced Syrian students. My name is Nele Feldman. I'm the head of Student Emergency Initiatives, and I am joined by my colleague Krikor Yuretsian. He is the Global Education in Emergencies Analyst. Before we start the webinar, just a few housekeeping rules. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, during the webinar or at the end of the webinar, you can use the chat box, and then we're going to read the questions and respond to any questions at the end of the webinar. It's going to be a fairly quick walk through the application and selection process for the travel grants. We're going to talk about the eligibility criteria, the documents you need to submit. We're also going to kind of show you how you register and then apply for the travel grants, and we're going to provide you with a brief timeline, and then at the end of the webinar we're going to have time for Q&A. So with that, I would like to start the webinar, and I'm going to move it over to Krikor, and him and I, we're going to walk you guys through the webinar together.
Okay, hi everyone. First thing I'm going to talk about is the eligibility criteria for the travel grants. The applicants must be Syrian citizens or Palestinians with a Syrian travel document, and must be admitted into a higher education institution to complete a degree program. But you have to start your studies in fall 2018, as in your first term will be in fall 2018. The travel grants are open to any level of education, meaning bachelor or master's or a PhD. And applicants from all academic fields are eligible to apply for the travel grants.
All right. So moving on to the next slide, those are the required documents. So we think that really the application is relatively straightforward, and we do not require a lot of documents actually. But of course, we need to make sure that everyone who applies is a Syrian citizen or a Palestinian with a Syrian travel document. So we ask you to please upload your Syrian passport or the travel document. We also ask you to please upload your most recent diploma. So we're not necessarily asking about all of the transcripts you're having, but a copy of your diploma or certificate. Again, it does not have to be, we prefer official documents, but it can be unofficial. If you have received university admission, for example, let's say you applied to a university in the United States, then usually the admissions process at this point is already finished, and then we would ask you to please submit a copy of your university admission letter. That said, we know that, for example, if you plan to go to a European university, that the admissions timeline is much later, and that also studies start later. So in those cases, you may have submitted your application, but you have not yet received a decision on your application. So what you should have received is, for example, an email confirmation that your application was submitted. And again, in those cases, we would like to have one PDF document of those emails confirming that you submitted an application. Because again, the travel grants that we are awarding are really for the purpose to help you kind of finance the travel to your host country, the country where then in fall 2018 you will be starting your studies. Just for our own planning and in terms of knowing, when your studies will start, we would also like to see your university's academic calendar. And in general, it should be fairly easy for you to, to find the academic calendar. It should be on the website of all of the universities. You can take a screenshot and then again save that screenshot as a PDF, and then you can upload it to your application. And also a letter of recommendation, either from a professor or a colleague. It can be a letter of recommendation that is specifically kind of, drafted for this specific application for the travel grants, or a letter of recommendation that, for example, you submitted along with your university application.
Okay, I'm going to walk you through the application process now. So once you open the application registration, which is step one, you fill in your name and your email, and then you're going to get the link, which is shown in step two. You also get this link in an email so that you have it saved, because this is a unique link that you can't get again if you lose it. So after you follow that link, you get to step three, where it's the actual application. So you fill that out, and then you've actually applied for the travel grant.
In terms of timeline, so if you saw the announcement, I'm sure you read the application deadline, which is June 22nd. And as Krikor just mentioned, so just registering for the travel grant application does not mean that you have submitted. So by June 22nd, you all have to make sure that you complete your application online and that you also submit your application. Otherwise, we will not be able to consider you for a travel grant. The IIE team will then review applications in June and July, and by the end of July, we will announce the decision, meaning you will receive an email letting you know whether or not you were awarded with one of the IIE PEER Travel Grants. It is a grant, so we will have to do terms of appointment. I'm not going to talk about this in a lot of detail at this point in time, but it's a simple, straightforward document just outlining the financial support that you're receiving. So, and also when IIE will be able to, provide you with that support. And then once you are in your host country, that is when we will be able to issue the payments. So we want to be very clear that unfortunately we will not be able to provide you with the financial support when you're still in your current host country or still in your home country. We will only be able to transfer the funding once you arrive in your host country. And I think that is very important for everyone to acknowledge. And then also you need to make sure that knowing that this funding will be coming from IIE to support your travel costs, that you will be in a situation, if you're selected, that you have to advance those costs, and that basically IIE will then, once you arrive in your host country, reimburse you for your expenses. And I think with that, that's really the main kind of the nuts and bolts, I would say, of the travel grant. We want to leave a lot of time for your guys' questions. We do know that, of course, we can't walk you through the whole applications just because, it'll be a little time consuming. We do know that everyone has different questions. So I would really encourage everyone to use the time that we have to ask specific questions about the travel grant, about the application. There is one comment I would like to make. If you have already opened the application, or if you're going to register and then open the application in the future, there's one question, it's question 31, which really asks about a budget. So we want to know what the cost that you anticipate for your travel. So you do not need to write, and how far this grant will help you. But what we would want to see is an estimate of the expenses for visa, any travel to the visa appointment, and then of course the travel from your current host country or country of residence to your new host country. So that is basically what we are asking for in question 31. And with that, I think I would open it to questions. What we're going to do, Krikor is going to read out the questions, and then we're going to respond to the questions.
Okay, so one question is, can I apply if I'm not a dual citizen of Syria and another country?
Yes, in that case, you can apply for the travel grant. So really, what is important is that let's say you grew up in Syria, and you're not able to continue your studies either in Syria or your current host country, and also that the reason for your displacement, if I can call it like that, is really the conflict in Syria. But other than that, you can apply for the travel grant.
Okay, we have another one. If I started my application, if I started my application and I want to finish it, how do I access the same application again?
So whenever you when you register for the application, and maybe Krikor, we can go back to that slide.
Yeah, sure.
Bear with us for a moment. Exactly. So you have that slide where Krikor just walked you through the different steps. And so what everyone should receive when they register is under step 2 at the bottom, you should receive an email with the unique link to your application. So that means please make sure that you go to your email account, using the email you registered with for the application. If you don't find it in your inbox, it's always worth checking your spam folder. So maybe it ends up in your spam folder. And then, you can see in blue that everyone is going to receive that unique link, and that will enable you to finish and continue your application at a later point. And then again, please make sure that you do so. So if you take a break, if you start the application, take a break, then that's the link that's going to assure you to be able to return and continue and complete your application.
All right. We have someone asking, can I apply if my university is in Lebanon and I already lived in Lebanon?
So in that case, the travel grant is really supposed to support students that go to a different country than their current residency. Meaning if you're already in Lebanon and you will start your studies in Lebanon in fall 2018, then you would not be eligible for the travel grant. Again, this grant opportunity is for students who will have to go through a visa process to help them cover the cost of the visa process and the travel to a third country, meaning a country that is not the country of their current residency.
Okay, and the last question is kind of similar. I started in September 2018, but I am already in my host country. Can I still apply for grant funding? I'm studying in a different country than my country of residence.
Okay, so in that case, yes, you would be eligible. Again, you have to be eligible for this grant, you have to start studying in fall 2018. If you're already in your new host country and you just recently arrived, let's say from Lebanon to France, and you will be studying in France starting September 2018, then yes, you are eligible to apply for this grant opportunity.
Okay, and this looks like it's the last question. Actually, no. What if I have been accepted? What if I have not been accepted to university yet?
That's a good question. So if you have not yet been accepted to university, but you submitted an application or several applications to universities outside of your current country of residence, then you are eligible to apply. What you will have to do is, instead of submitting a copy of your admission letter, you will have to submit the documents. It was under the document section. We would ask you to please submit the email confirmation of your application submission. So again, if you apply to university, you submit your application, you should receive an email notification that they received your application. If you did that, to 2 or 3 universities, we would ask you to combine all of those email confirmations into one PDF document and upload it to your application. If you're selected for the grant opportunity, again, we can only pay out the grant once you're in your host country, meaning we will then ask you for a proof of enrollment. Everyone will be asked for a proof of enrollment before we can issue the payment of the grant.
Okay, we got a few more. Can I still apply if I enrolled, but I'm still waiting to hear back from my grant applications to finance my admission? How do I answer the question, list all the scholarships/personal funds that you plan to use?
So yes, you can. I'm just going to have a look at the question again. So you can apply, obviously, if you're planning to use the funding for travel expenses. So this is not a grant that is supposed to support tuition or living expenses. It is a grant that is supposed to cover travel expenses to your host country. For the question in the application about scholarships and how you will fund your studies, just list anything from personal funding, or if you apply to any sort of other grant opportunities. It is not an eligibility criteria, but obviously we want this grant to support students, kind of reach their host country, and then making sure that once they are in their host country, that they have the funding necessary to complete their studies successfully.
Okay, and this seems like our last question. Is the grant going to be also available in 2019?
So at this point, we only have funding available for students who wish to start their studies in fall 2018, meaning that at this point, we cannot confirm that there will be any funding for 2019. So again, unfortunately, if, for example, you plan to start your studies in spring 2019, then right now you would not be eligible for this grant opportunity. Okay.
I think that's it.
So I guess we don't have any additional questions. I will say that if you fill out the application, you should also receive, you should have the email address you can send questions to. We can also pull that up. It's on our last slide. It's on our first slide. I apologize. So it's peertravel@iie.org. And then Crecor and myself, we're happy to respond to any questions that you have regarding the application and selection for the travel grants. Again, please make sure that if you start the application but you do not complete the application, that you go back and submit and complete and upload all of the required documents before June 22nd. So to make sure that your application is kind of ending up in the pile that we're going to review. And again, in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to us and share any questions. And we're happy to provide more detailed information on any question that you specifically may have. So I think we're just going to check one more time if there are any additional questions, but I don't think so. So with that, I think it was a quick quick and informative webinar, hopefully. We look forward to receiving your applications, and again, let us know if you have any questions. Thank you very much and have a good day, and bye-bye.